you for joining this interesting session on women in leadership. As we go ahead to celebrate the World Women's Day on 8th of August, so we thought this would be an appropriate date to kickstart the entire process. So we have with us our chairperson of Indian Chamber of Commerce Women Entrepreneurship Committee, Ms. Nayantara Palchodhuri, and co-chair Ms. Sukriti Patnaik. We also have with us Ms. Swati Gautam. She is a well-known entrepreneur in our area, in our region. I would request Ms. Nayantara Palchodhuri to begin the session. But before that, I'll just give a brief introduction. Ms. Palchodhuri has been a committee member of Indian Chamber of Commerce for the past 15 years. She was the first lady president of Bengal National Chamber of Commerce, and recently she has broken a glass ceiling. After 140 years, she has become the first lady to chair the Indian Tea Association. She is also the vice chair of Tea Research Association and has been the district governor of Rotary International and is on the board of many listed companies. She is also the counsel for Norway and currently chairing the ICC National Women Entrepreneurship Committee. So over to you, Madam,
Thank you,
for your opening remarks.
Thank you, Shoma, for your kind introduction, and good afternoon, everybody. It is indeed my pleasure and honor to welcome you all here today. And on behalf of the Indian Chamber of Commerce, I would like to express my great pleasure in welcoming our chief guest, Madam Rowan Ainsworth, Consul General, Australian Consulate General in Kolkata. She's an extremely popular lady, has been rather busy this week and very much in demand. And thank you for sparing a little bit of your time for us this afternoon. Well, friends, we will be celebrating International Women's Day on the 8th of March, and I feel extremely happy that we have been able to organize this short virtual event on women in leadership. I'm sure we will be able to arrange physical meetings in the near future and meet all of you in person. I'm extremely honored to have with us Madam Rowan Ainsworth as our chief guest speaker this afternoon. And we would, of course, like to welcome her on her journey as a woman in top leadership positions. My friend Swati Gautam is one of our committee members who has very kindly joined us today. With her vast experience as an entrepreneur, she will share with us her journey and the challenges she has had to face. Well, friends, the Indian Chamber of Commerce has finally decided to form a Women's Entrepreneurship Council or Committee at the national level, involving successful women entrepreneurs from different parts of the country. This will be a great networking platform, and we will be able to learn from each other. At a later stage, I have visions of connecting this committee to other SAARC countries and, of course, missions abroad. I'm happy to announce today that Ms. Sukriti Patnaik is going to be the co-chair of the ICC Women's Entrepreneurship Council. Sukriti has successfully connected upcoming entrepreneurs in Orissa and mentored them. With her able support and guidance, I'm sure the Women's Entrepreneurship Council of the Indian Chamber of Commerce will be able to position itself as a key national body in the true sense, and we will have many exciting virtual and physical events to handle together with each one of you. Well, friends, work-life balance for each one of us women is so very, very important. Despite career interruptions due to motherhood and other reasons, we women have mastered the art of multitasking and have competed for top positions, not only in the corporate boardroom, but in other areas. Swati, I think, will touch upon the Indian scenario, and we look forward to hearing our chief guest. I'm sure it is going to be a very engaging discussion. We will try to keep it brief and complete the program in approximately 1 hour. Interaction, if there is time for it, will be on the chat box. With these few words, may I now request Swati Gautam to address us on her topic, Women at Work and Indian Reality. Over to you, Swati.
Thank you, Noyantara. Am I audible? Hi, Rohan. Hi, Sukriti. And a very warm good afternoon to all those who have tuned in on a working day. Thank you for joining us. From Noyantara, who has now broken this glass ceiling, as we were informed by Soma, to the time when we go back to our independence, India has had its own tradition of women leaders. The first woman to become a governor right after independence, Sarojini Naidu. The first Indian woman to hold the chief ministership, Sucheta Kriplani of Uttar Pradesh, right after independence. The first Indian woman prime minister, the indomitable Indira Gandhi. We've had our first woman president also. And we've had an Arundhati Bhattacharya who made it to right to the top of the State Bank of India, that humongous bank that goes back centuries. We've had very recently a Madhuri Butch head SEBI, the Securities Exchange Board of India, another woman to have broken the glass ceiling. We've had Kalpana Chawla in space. We have many, many, many such examples. We have an Indra Nooyi who's represented Indian women in the global corporate world. But ladies and gentlemen, my question to us is this: are these women the norm, or are they just an exception? And I start by invoking that man who India and the world remain indebted to, Mahatma Gandhi, for he said, India lives in its villages. It still does. So much as I'd hate to be a party pooper and a party buster, but here I am. I'd like to verbalize, say aloud, some facts that are staring us right in the face, facts about working Indian women and Indian women at work, both in the organized and the unorganized sector. I'd quickly like to say all this so that we, the women and the men who are here on this platform, each one of us can perhaps be a lamp that lights 1,000 other lamps. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the reality in India that's staring us very bleakly is this. For the last 10 years, every year after year, there has been a decline, I repeat, a great steady decline in the number of Indian women in the workspace, both in urban and rural India. This one fact is totally glossed over or gets brushed under the carpet in the face of individual Indian women's success and achievements. And whilst I am the first one to laud them, because who knows better than me the solitary journey to being a woman in her own right, the fact is this: till we know why we are in such a position, there is very little that we will be able to do to change it. And change this is an absolute urgent need. So here we are, 48% of India is women. Almost half of Indian population is women. But can you imagine what is the percentage of urban Indian women at work? A measly 7%. And all the figures, I'm trying to go with very little numbers to make it interesting, but all figures and statistics and every fact that I give out here has been corroborated by either the Economist, Reuters, the Print, the Indian Express, studies at Harvard, studies at Ashoka University. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I don't mean to be a scaremonger. I just mean to bring to the fore what is actually happening. So 7% of women work in India, in urban India. Less than 20%, only about 15, 16%, this after the pandemic, are working in rural India. Where does that leave us? Why is it that at a point of time when the world is developing technologically, socially, and in all of the ways, of course, notwithstanding all the wars that which are happening around us, which are also perhaps the result of all this development that we speak about. But to come back to the point, India, for some odd reason, is seeming to leaving its women out of the working arena. There are 4 factors that I've broadly identified for why women are opting out from work. The first, strangely enough, but not surprisingly, is marriage. Marriage, that institution which holds society together, is in many ways proving to be counterproductive. I'll give one little example to start with. In about 10 years back, Mohan Bhagwat, the head of the RSS, and I invoke him because today the RSS is the mother organization that is responsible for the party that rules India for the past 10 years, the BJP. Mohan Bhagwat, who we would all like to look up to, had said this, and I quote, "A husband and wife are involved in a contract under which the husband has said that you should take care of my house and I shall take care of your needs. Till the time the wife follows the contract, the husband is with her. If the wife violates the contract, the husband can disown her." Now, it isn't just Mohan Bhagwat or the RSS philosophy that says it. I can assure you, all of you are well aware of the fact that this kind of an attitude flows right through the spectrum, irrespective of political affiliation, irrespective of gender, irrespective of attitudes, irrespective of education, irrespective of demography. This is what the larger part of India tends to believe. Figures and statistics have also shown that domestic violence victims are far more in number when they are working than when they are not. So yes, setting aside the fact that women who do not work may not have access to reporting domestic violence, fact remains that domestic violence is perpetrated more on women who work, perhaps for these reasons. Backlash by the spouse, because she's financially a little more capable, she's financially a little more competent, taking her own decisions, charting her own little path, and maybe that creates a backlash. Along with it, a very stark sense of guilt that the woman also goes through because of all this conditioning around her, her parents, society, everybody says, you should be at home. Now, this is what is creating a huge tension, a huge stress. Statistics are also showing, and this is really depressing, that of all the working women who get married, 50% of them drop out of work after marriage. Yes, this must be due to rising family incomes, fair enough, but rising family incomes should include family incomes, not just the income by the male head of the family. I would like to accommodate all those who say that working or not working is a woman's choice. And those who say, so what is wrong with the woman who stays at home? Humongous studies have revealed this, ladies and gentlemen, that a woman who works, a woman who is financially independent, results in the upgradation of not just her own physical, financial, and mental stature. She's also responsible for uplifting the stature and the standard of health of her children, her family, her society, her nation, and the world. There's very little that those who argue about choice can perhaps say to the fact that it is a woman's choice to work or not. Yes, but a wrong choice is not a choice. Just like a knife rusts when not used, so does a woman who's not using her facilities tend to, or perhaps may rust in her abilities. The second factor that I'd like to quickly speak about is education. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, education in India, and the more educated that rural girls and urban girls are, the more is the tendency to look for only a certain kind of jobs, which rural India and to some extent urban India is unable to provide for. To give more clarity to this, so when a class 10 or class 12 pass out in a village boy wants to work, he has n number of a spectrum of options in front of him. He could be a truck driver, he could be a cleaner, he could be a farmhand, he could be a carpenter, he can be in a vocational service, he can be a courier boy, he can be a delivery boy, he can be a marketing assistant to a little marketing setup. There's a lot that he can do. But what about that girl who's now studied that little bit, where there is no great employment and where the mindset is this, that now that I'm educated, I will not work, because there's the white collar industry and there's the blue collar industry. Thirdly, it is women in India who have continued to bear the burden of unpaid family work, unpaid housework, and unpaid caregiving. Tracy Chapman at Harvard has coined a very beautiful term. She says it's time for the defeminization of unpaid work. So there are lots and lots of women, especially in rural India, who are actually working day in and out, outside of their families, but are not categorized as working. Say, for instance, they're rearing livestock, they're rearing poultry, they're rearing cattle, they're working on their own farms, so they're not counted as women who work, and yet the financial gains of all these activities and work that they're involved in doesn't accrue to them personally. So they work, they give their labor, but they don't have a voice. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, the infrastructure. India certainly does not boast of any robust infrastructure for women. From basic toilets, safe toilets at work, to safe commutes, to safe spaces at work, much as India has evolved in trying to make its spaces safer for women, there isn't much that has percolated to the ground till now. This too must change. We are running a little short on time, but I must touch upon what is it that the number of us who have joined into this webinar can actually do to change this situation. So there are some of us who are senior enough to be able to try and impress upon change in policy making, change in policy decisions, and change in systems, in systemic activity. But then the rest of us can do a far more important thing than that too, which is this. All of us, I am absolutely certain, are linked to either rural or suburban India in some way. All of us have evolved from villages that we have kept in touch with. Perhaps each one of us here can adopt or just engage with or just attach ourselves to one or two young rural or urban girls or women who perhaps just need this little bit, which is counseling, some amount of talking to, some amount of guidance. It's important for us women who've perhaps reached a stage of privilege to not forget our underprivileged roots. For us to tell them that we do not work because it's binding on us to work. We work because it's nice to be a producer. It's ethical to be a producer. It's humane to not just consume, to not just be a consumer. We work because it keeps our faculties going, mentally, physically, financially. It's up to us to impress upon them so as to give them that little strength to break the shackles of their own mind. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, when we said that 50% of women, half the women who are working, stop working after marriage, fact is this. Indian parents, definitely in rural India too, are now very supportive of the right of their daughters to educate themselves and to work. All that is needed, a little push. Perhaps that push can come from each one of us. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I hope I've not exceeded my time.
Thank you, Swati. Thank you for, you continue to motivate and inspire me. And I feel especially privileged to chair this committee because I represent an industry where 60% of the workforce are women, the tea industry. And I was relating to each one of the points that you mentioned. There is a lot of food for thought in your presentation, and I'm sure we will deliberate upon all the issues later. Statistics show that we definitely have to do much, much better. Thank you once again, Swati. Now, friends, I have great pleasure in introducing to you our chief guest, Madam Rowan Ainsworth, Consul General from the Australian Consulate General in Kolkata. I was so happy to meet Rowan when she first arrived in Kolkata. Rowan is a career officer with the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade and was most recently counselor at the Australian Embassy in Paris. She has served in the Foreign Mission in Moscow and Tokyo. In Canberra, she served with the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade as Director for North, Central, and Eastern Europe. And she was also the State Director for Tasmanian State Office. Rowan did her graduation and master's from the University of Sydney. May I now request Madam Rowan to kindly address us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just unmuting myself there. It is such a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you so much for the invitation. I thought on this approach to International Women's Day that I would tell you a little bit about what Australia's approach is to gender equality and what we do, including within my own ministry. So obviously gender equality is a priority for Australia's international engagement. We're committed to advancing Australia's reputation as a global leader on gender equality and on women's empowerment. These are key themes for us. And why is that so? Because gender equality is a human right, and respecting all of human rights and freedoms makes the world a safer, secure, and more prosperous place. So we pursue gender equality as a core Australian value, and it's a top priority across our foreign policy, our economic diplomacy, and our development funding as well. And I should point out our Foreign Minister is also Australia's Minister for Women. And we're particularly focused on ending violence against women and girls, on advancing women's economic empowerment, and strengthening women's leadership and their role in peace and security. So I thought I'd start with a couple of sobering statistics. 1.3 billion people live in poverty. Of those, 70% are women and girls. Women predominate in the world's food production. They produce between 50 and 80% of food, but they own less than 10% of the land that produces that food. So just an idea of really how much work we have to do, how globally women's stature is, there's so much room for improvement. So, but given this is the ICC, I thought I'd start with women's economic development. That might be a more useful discussion to have. So the evidence shows that increasing women's participation in the economy strengthens economic growth. That is clear. It's a critical pathway to creating just and inclusive societies. And economically empowered women have more control over their lives. I think it was a point Swati was making. They're able to participate with influence in political, social, family, and community life. It increases the well-being of families and communities. And studies suggest that gender equality is really a powerful driver for economic growth. I think the Sustainable Development Goals recognise that gender inequality undermines sustainable development and poverty reduction efforts. So we have to ensure that both men and women can equally access productive assets, credit, financial services, markets, and participate safely in the formal workplace with fair and equal remuneration, as well as participate in family life and care responsibilities. And these issues should all be the same for everybody. It's not to women to look after the family and care responsibilities. Let's be fair about it and allow men to be parents as well. Women-owned or led businesses can be a large source of job creation for both men and women. For example, small and medium enterprises in Asia make up 98% of all businesses and provide jobs for 66% of the labour force. Women-owned SMEs represent over 30% of all SMEs in emerging markets, and they have the potential to stimulate innovation and changes in production and marketing. And that's just common sense. So I'm not saying that all of Australia's recent economic growth is caused only by the participation of women. Good economic policy might have had something to do with it as well, I'm sure. But involving members of all our society such that everyone has had a chance to succeed is crucial. However, do Australian women in business really face a level playing field? Like women around the world, women entrepreneurs and business owners face particular challenges that inhibit their ability to grow and underrepresent senior positions as CEOs and on business boards. And my colleague pointed out to me an article in The Guardian, it was from 2015, which said that in Australia's largest 100 stock exchange listed companies, there were more men named Michael in CEO positions than there were women. And I checked that article, and the horrifying thing is there were more men named Peter in CEO positions than there were women. There were also more men named David in CEO positions than there were women at all in the top 100 listed companies. It's just extraordinary. Is that really making the best use of the talent pool available in Australia? I think women tend to be overlooked for investment and creating a gender gap, that is creating a gender gap in access to capital. And I suspect this is at least true in India as it is in Australia, even though I don't have the statistics on it. But nearly 1 billion women globally are financially excluded, and large financial service providers do not target their approaches or their products to women. So overseas, Australia supports innovative programs that work with the private sector, including investors, to increase the flow of capital to women entrepreneurs and promote gender equality and women's economic empowerment. And in addition, our direct aid program here in Kolkata, the projects we support are predominantly targeted at women, both equipping women with business skills and supporting entrepreneurship, and working positively to change perceptions of women's roles in the economy. And pointed out, and as we all know, these social and cultural norms further restrict women's participation in the economy. And then there's women in leadership, providing female role models for women, very important. Societies that include women in all aspects of economic, political, and cultural life are more likely to be vibrant, inclusive, productive, and stable, importantly. However, women continue to be underrepresented in positions of leadership and influence. And notwithstanding the singular examples Swati provided, and I could mention Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, for example. She says she's a formidable opponent, there is absolutely no doubt. But, as Swati pointed out, uncommon example of a woman in such a high-powered role. We recognise that for women to be successful leaders, they need skills and capacity and institutional support, including with practical issues such as access to childcare, training, safe transport, safe workplaces, and other resources. So my ministry, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, tries to ensure those principles are put into practice in our own workplaces. And how do we do that? In 2015, my department conducted a review of women in leadership in our ministry, and that resulted in a strategy to improve women's advancement in the workplace. The strategy's goal is a workplace which maximises performance and capability by enabling all genders to thrive equally. All staff should be able to participate and progress commensurate with their talent and aspirations and feel valued and inspired to do their best. The changes introduced in the strategy are wide-ranging, from the introduction of part-time and flexible work for all roles, men and women, to allow parents to fulfil their childcare duties, and gender targets for recruitment of senior executives, the introduction of unconscious bias training, and I know that's really important for, well, it's important for everybody, it's important for me because it allows you to understand yourself and your own biases better, and therefore to make more conscious decisions And the other one was embedding inclusive leadership practices in everyday work. So the leaders in the ministry are more accountable for setting an inclusive tone in the workplace, to improve internal transparency of our performance on gender, and to obviously break down the barriers, that important issue that staff have identified as holding women back in the workplace. And these are questions we all need to ask ourselves. Do we have an equal opportunities employment policy in the workplace? Is it being applied correctly? Are we following up on implementation, checking statistics, making sure that these things that are in the policy are actually being done? For example, ask yourselves how many third gender representatives are in management positions in your organisation. In my organisation, I currently have none. I'm not proud of that. So I need to follow through. Why is that? And what can I do to change that? Why aren't people applying for positions in my organisation that represent third gender? I'm considering starting an internship program to address that very issue. So that would support and help train those who are looking for such opportunities, because I recognise that perhaps the reason is they haven't had the same educational opportunities as other people have. I also, through an implementation check of our women in leadership commitments, realise I am not doing enough for our current staff in terms of training. I want to be able to give our women the tools to go on to bigger and better things. And I've been found wanting, and I'm determined to rectify that. Our strategy is regularly reviewed to see how we're tracking against targets. Our strategy is designed to embed equality. Inclusive, supportive and constructive leaders will be the norm, I hope are the norm, with an accountable leadership. And all leaders in our ministry are invested in achieving and, importantly, maintaining targets. And our performance agreements are tied to those targets with sustainable work practices, new, more productive and sustainable ways of working will deliver organisational outcomes. Flexibility will be the norm and linked to optimising performance, and staff have access to safe spaces and workplaces that are free of sexual harassment. Women's health issues are no longer taboo. Parental leave for men is accepted, and indeed, in my case, very much encouraged, because it's one of my particular bugbears. Men need to be recognised as parents and need to have access to that leave, and women need to be no longer held. Making men take also the same child rearing gaps in their careers, I think would go a long way toward evening out that disparity. That's just one particular hobby horse of mine. But as you can see, you know, in the ministry, we're taking it seriously by setting ourselves targets and then revisiting those targets. So I just wanted to share that, because I think perhaps these are some ideas that we can all put in place in our own workplaces, maybe. And I just want to say thank you for inviting me to speak today, and thank you to all the terrific women speakers and organisers of this event. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Rowan. I think for me personally, this was a lesson in leadership. We've covered so many very important and crucial points, and we need to address them. As mentioned by Swati, you know, we have to intervene at the policy making levels, decision making levels. The Government of India has come out with some enactments, but we need to do more. The statistics were also very interesting. I would request your mission to please continue to engage yourselves with us. If ever you visit any of the eastern states on your assignment, Sukriti is from Orissa, and they're doing wonderful work there. And maybe you could have a little chat with her on your next visit, and anywhere else which is within your jurisdiction. With this, my friends, we have a very little time for interaction. Shoma, if you could come in and moderate this session. If there's anyone who wants to ask any question in the chat box, or I think you can raise your hands as well, right, Shoma?
Yes, you may raise your hand, then we will allow you to talk and
I
Or
have,
there could be questions in the chat box, or any of the panelists may have a couple of questions.
yes, go
Yeah,
on.
I just want to ask one thing. I mean, we are all advocating for women rights and women privileges. How do you what do you think about you know if a woman is capable or not for a position? So for any position, the capability has to be there, isn't it? So what should take precedence? I mean, a person who is capable, or just because she's a woman, she should be given a position? What is your take on that? Each
Swati,
of you.
Swati.
Can I take this, please?
Yes, please.
Okay, hi, Sukriti. Sukriti, the first thing, maybe you said it unknowingly. We are not speaking about privileges for women. None of it
Right, exactly.
has
Yes.
been about a privilege. It is simply and simply about what is basically due to us as humans. Okay. Secondly, merit should never, ever be bypassed. However, the world over, the story of society, if you look at it historically, is a story of exploitation. And the one of aboriginals, of locals, of marginalized people, of tribals, of those who are at the bottom of a social list, of casteism is in India. But what I'm trying to say is this. One, I think that nobody can disagree with the fact that the largest and most original group to be exploited is women. Women have always been exploited against by our counterparts, men, because it has suited their structure. So my point is this: since it is our bounden duty, since it is right, moral, and rational to give a fillip to those who are underprivileged, I would say this: do not bypass merit for a job, but please take on the responsibility of upgrading women to the merit that they can be at. Who will do it if not us, for our sisters? For I personally carry that one word very strongly in my dictionary, which I offer to you, woman to woman today, and to all other panelists and those who are listening: sorority. Fraternity has been in fashion since the French Revolution. What happened to sorority? Let us be very, very aware of the fact that there is a sorority that we must be a little more aware and conscious about. That's it. Thank you.
Perfectly put. Perfectly put.
Thanks,
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy.
We have a question from one of the very young, Rowan,
if I may.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, because I have a slightly different take. The question of merit, of course, is important, but what we're talking about here is, should we have targets for employing female women? And I will give you this piece of, or this opinion, which came from my husband, in fact, just to think about. He said, look around at any large organization, look around at the organization you're in now. Are there men working with you who are completely incompetent? Why couldn't you employ the same women to do that? His point is that merit, so-called merit, really give you the result that you think it gives. Somebody's idea of merit is somebody else's idea of incompetence. In fact, why not then just say, yes, we will have targets and we will bring women or worse? Why would you think they're not going to be competent or less competent than some of the people already employed? It takes all sorts of people to create a big organization. Let them all in and let them try. So yes, that's just kind of coming from a man. I thought a very interesting and very valid view, in fact. So it doesn't mean that we'll all just, employ women willy-nilly who are not able to do the jobs for which they're employed. But just keep in mind that there are different ideas about, what exactly is high merit.
Great.
Thank you, Rowan. Totally with you on this.
Thanks, Rowan. We have, sorry.
Something too, I can't remember the name of the author now. There's a woman who wrote a book recently about leaning in, how women need to lean in It was a very well-known American, feminist view on how women need to push themselves forward more. Again, I think, actually, no, women need to be appreciated for the qualities they have. We don't need to become men. We don't need to lean in and be more pushy. We should be actually appreciated for the value of the characteristics that each person brings.
Correct.
That's all.
Nice, thank you. We have one question from a very young entrepreneur, Shalini Ghosh, who's a member of our Indian Chamber Entrepreneurs Committee. She writes, how does one navigate power structures early in your career versus later in your career when you are more set in a formal leadership role? I think, positioning yourself, and she comes from a family business kind of a background, is very important. Swati and Rohan, if you could just.
Would Rohan like to go first? I think she's muted herself, or maybe she's not there.
I had put myself on mute. You go ahead.
Right. Fine. Thank you, Rohan. Hi, Shalini. Thank you for this question. I just take it very, very basically. Navigating power structures for when I was young to when I am now 52 is not much different, because there could be a day not just being a woman entrepreneur, I'm also a single woman. So my plumber or my sweeper could just decide to act up with me. The point is this, in a more formal setting, it is slightly easier when you're older, but in India, you risk losing a lot of men friends when you are yourself. So be prepared to do that. If your friends know that you are what you are, or people around you know that you will be what you are, and you will continue to state what your position is, it becomes a little easier. But all in all, if I were to draw a bottom line for you, it is this: go with the flow, my dear. Don't let what you can't change affect you. Focus on only that which you can change. It's not possible for us to change those around us. We change ourselves. This negotiating and navigating power obstacles and power impediments has simply made me, I think, quite immodestly perhaps, a more flexible person. So I know when something goes wrong, something better is around the bend. That's it. And yes, I'd like to say this too. In my life, if there are 3 people I'd like to count on my fingertips as being those who have held me high in life, then 2 of them are men. So there are exceptionally good men in life. Be on the lookout for them. And once you see them, like Ron's husband, she's caught on to the right guy in life. She's exceptionally lucky to have found him, and now she's held on to him. Excellent, Ron. But the point is this, Shalini, look out for those who give you their energy. Look out for those who lift you up. And all these power structures will just be by the way. Thank you. Rohan, all yours.
Rohan?
Sorry, I was muting myself instead of unmuting. I beg your pardon. Look, I couldn't agree more. I think it's not really a question of male and female in this case. I think it's what you do in life. It's pursuing your dream and not letting other people tell you that because you're a woman you can't. If it's something that lifts you up, if it's something that makes you happy, it gives you joy, everything becomes so much easier because you love what you're doing and you love the goal you're working for. So I think that is a key way to approach everything that you do. And then yes, there are men out there who are fantastic, and most of them, in fact. I think, the difficult ones, we'll come up against them, but they're not in the majority, in my experience, and I'm hoping it's the same in India as it is in Australia. And there are lots of men who are, supportive, wonderful people. So try and find them. And also, have a think about how you turn that those blockages into something positive for you, looking at the next thing around the corner, or perhaps even in fact, something that I find is in situations where women are not given a lot of opportunities, you find that the women who succeed are so good because they've had to do so much better. They've had to be so much stronger. They've had to outshine all the others in the room. That is a point worth making if you're talking to an employer or somebody who wants to make an investment in your company. Because I'm a woman, I am going to be better, guaranteed in this society. I'm the cream that's come to the top. So, you know, it's worth a try. But just do what you love. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rowan. I think all good things have to come to an end, and we can continue with this very, very interesting discussion. And as I said, we hope to meet up in future physically to take this forward. And Rowan, I'd request you to also kindly guide us in formulating the key thrust areas, focus areas for our Women's Entrepreneurship Committee. With your vast experience, if you could kindly just guide me and Shukriti to take this initiative forward. With these few words, may I request the co-chair Shukriti Patnaik from Bhubaneswar to kindly propose the vote of thanks and for your concluding remarks.
Thank you so much, Nayanthara. I think it was a power-packed session, and I'm completely at awe listening to all of you ladies, and I can't tell you thank you enough for setting this up. And first of all, yes, I would like to thank Ms. Rowan Ainsworth, Consul General, Australian Consulate General in Kolkata. So Rowan, we met in Bhubaneswar when you were here with a delegate, I believe. And then it was really amazing. And yes, we spoke about, how we can take a delegate of women entrepreneurs from India to Australia to learn and grow together. Yeah. And I would like to thank Ms. Swati Gautam. I think it was really, really inspiring to listen to you. And all of us here are, looking forward to meet you very soon when we are in Kolkata. Maybe you can come down to Bhubaneswar. And lastly, my chairperson, Nayanthara Pal Chaudhary, the power woman, the woman who has inspired everybody, and she has created history. So thank you, Nayanthara, and it's a great, great association to start with. And I believe, together we can create a lot of difference in this area. I must again, take this opportunity to announce that Indian Chamber of Commerce Women's Entrepreneurship Council is the first time that we have created this body nationally. And you will all be very proud to know that since the last 2 years, we have this chapter in Odisha, and we have grown from a mere 20 women entrepreneurs to 110 women entrepreneurs right now. So I think we have created history with that in Odisha. And so we are really, really marching ahead. And I believe we really need to give this ecosystem to the women. We need to handhold each other. We need to give a platform to each other so that not only we shine, not only we create a difference, but moreover, it's very important for our own mental health as well. Because more and more women these days, when I interact with them, they say, I feel bottled up in my home. It's about my kids, it's about my marriage. I really want to do something about myself, my life, my passion, my journey. So, the tagline we use is create your own identity. So that is very, very important. So as long as the self-realization does not kick in, a woman doesn't realize that, yes, I have to take the first step, I don't think anybody else can help there. So once you take the first step, the IWEC, which we popularly call IVEC, we are here to support you. So thank you all for joining in, and thanks to all the attendees who are listening to us, all the women, and I wish you all a very, very happy Women's Day well in advance. And I just hope we march ahead and keep smiling, keep charming, and keep growing. Thank you.
Thank you, Shukriti. Thank you all for joining in. Till we meet again.